Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. If you are here, I'm going to give people time to join us. Please put "I'm here" in the comment. We love seeing that. I am thrilled to be here. It has been a while since I've recorded one of these. I took a bit of a summer break. I am Heather Nelson. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a corporate partnership specialist. My firm, Bridge Raise, helps charities and nonprofits raise more money from companies with a values-aligned approach. And this topic is one that we discuss in our community with our clients and with each other all the time. Meaningful community volunteerism or meaningful employee engagement, which we call it, as part of your revenue generation plan. So I was thrilled to have a conversation with Jessica. We met through, the entrepreneur world, as you do. And I was thrilled to speak to her and hear her focus on this, how many places we aligned. And I felt, okay, this is somebody that my community will definitely want to hear from. So welcome, Jessica. I'd like you to share a little bit about yourself with our listeners.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Heather. My name is Jessica Pang Parks, and I am a nonprofit consultant specializing in community and volunteer engagement. So my background in volunteer engagement, I've worked at some of the largest charities in Canada doing that, but also with grassroots groups and volunteer centers. And I'm really about building that buy-in, trust, and genuine connection between folks who donate their time and usually also donate money with the organization.
That is perfect. And I know that you focus more broadly than we're going to kind of try to focus in here today. So I will, of course, I know that general volunteerism will leak in, but because I talk about corporate, I know we're going to specifically talk today about some of the strategies that really fit with making sure that corporate volunteer experiences are top-notch as well. So let's jump right into it. I think one of the hardest things to do is to measure success if you don't know what success looks like. So I wanted to start with that. Like, really, what are some key elements that make for a meaningful employee volunteer event, initiative, experience, so that we can measure our success against, something that, really looks good?
Yeah, I would say that the first one is learning and cause awareness among the employee volunteers who are supporting the initiative. It's really, what's their why, right? Yeah. Why are they there? Why are they sharing their skills? Why are they coming with their team to do this thing, right? And then that leads also to what is the impact of what they're actually doing? So who does it help? How does it help them? It could be, you are packing backpacks for school children, right? And that gives them a great start to the year.
Right.
But it could be more on a wider community level, right? Of you are weeding a garden. Right. And that allows the community to grow culturally significant food. So it's that information that's really important to share. At the same time, volunteerism is not amazing, right? And whether it's corporate or it's not, but especially for companies who want to come in and get their staff to do something, it should be something that actually needs doing.
Right. So, yeah. So what I'm hearing, on one hand, like that the activity has to be meaningful because it needs to be done.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask a follow-up question on that in a second. And on the other side, this like making sure that the participants have like contextual awareness. Like you've given them knowledge about why they're doing it, who they're doing it for, what your organization does. Do you recommend that? Like, how do you recommend that's done? Like, is that done ahead of time before they arrive? Is it done when they arrive? Like, what kinds of suggestions do you have around a bit of the how on the connecting the experience with the cause or the organization?
Yeah, I think it should be done at every stage, right?
Okay.
So when you're discussing with whoever is setting this up, be it the CSR director, whoever that is, right? Talk about what are those touch points with the employees, right? How are they going to find out, oh, this is the day we're going to go and do this, or you are invited to come to this, and why is it important, right? And then at the start of the initiative, have that pre-brief, right? So what do you know about the organization? What do you know about the community that we're serving? Have you taken part in any other things with our community or our organization before? That will bring some of the context, because people come in with all different types of experiences, and it's important for you to know that before you guide them along the journey. They may be farther along than you initially assumed.
That's so true. That's so true. I do think that's education, and I love your idea of the touch points. And it also, another thing that you said, which I really love, and I want to build on a little bit, is talk to the person about it, right? Like, so one question seems, based on what you're saying, to be, what are the touch points with the potential volunteers?
Yeah.
What might be some other nuggets or information that you want from that CSR person, that or could be an admin assistant or an executive assistant, it could be a committee in some cases, but whoever you're kind of working with to make this thing happen? What are some other like really important questions or pieces of information to get from them in order to achieve a successful, meaningful event for them?
Yeah, I think some things I can think of off the top of my head are: one, why did you choose us? Why did you choose us as the organization to support financially and with employee volunteering, right? Because maybe there is an employee who has a personal connection. Right? Maybe they're the survivor of a disease. Maybe they have a child who's impacted by something. Maybe they were a former program participant or recipient of the services, right? And that could be a very powerful story to share, but also it might be something that their colleagues already know and are way more bought in to the meaning and the impact than a group of general people who are like, oh, it sounded nice.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That connection story. That is such a good idea. And I think, there's this kind of, I think this a bit of cynicism on the part of sometimes charities where they think, that there wasn't much thought put into what charity that it was reached out to. It's just like whoever might have an activity for us, we're going to reach out to. But there are lots of examples where that's not true.
Yeah.
Where there's an internal champion, where there's an internal story, where there's an internal reason. And asking that, I love that, because right away you're building more of a partnership on this than, being more the recipient organization that's just, not connected based on mission or cause. When we talk about mission and cause, I think one of the concerns that I've heard that sometimes comes up is that the employee or the volunteer experience really wants to connect. The people really want to connect directly with the beneficiaries.
Yeah.
And in many cases, this is just not a great way of engaging employees for a very large number of reasons. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Like how to make sure that the employee engagement or volunteer opportunity really respects the community and the beneficiaries of the mission and the organization, and how you respond to the fact that they may want to have direct contact, sort of thing. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so in my work, I talk a lot about ethical volunteer engagement. And first of all, we already talked about, does the volunteer work that you've created actually need to get done, right? But
Right.
on a deeper level, does the community want that support from volunteers and from volunteers who are employees of a certain company?
Right. Right.
Maybe, maybe not, right? And you have to be aware of that as the person making that connection. Another thing to think about and to help explain to the partner why it could be harmful, really, like using that word, right? Having people come in and out of the lives of our community can be harmful.
Yeah.
And the people we bring to connect with our community longer term and make that deep impact, they have to have that commitment because over time they build that trust.
Mm-hmm.
If that's not part of your goal, right? You're looking for a half day opportunity, you
Mm-hmm.
know, a 2 hour opportunity, that could break the trust that we've built for, many, many seasons at
Mm-hmm.
our organization.
Yeah, it's really important consideration. And I think so back to like what are some of the key questions. One of the things I really encourage finding out when
Mhm.
I'm talking to it, is the goal a 1 day or a couple of hour engagement, or are you looking for real learning on your team? Are you looking
100%.
for those kinds of things? Because if they are looking for those kinds of things, then there may be some longer term volunteer opportunities that do include a training component, that do
Yes.
include over time, that there's some milestones the person has to hit before they are in front of beneficiaries. Like in many cases, it's not impossible to get to that point. In a lot of organizations, we do have volunteers working directly with the clients we're serving, but it's not somebody who's flying in and flying out, to your point. So that's a really good distinction. And I mean, I have seen a number of really great employee engagement programs with usually a smaller number of employees who
Yes.
commit over time to getting the training and coaching and become really meaningful parts of an organization. And as long as that's the criteria that are set out, it can be really successful. It's just that when you get an organization that wants that quick thing and you're matching up with an organization that needs this longer term, I love the idea of that being another education opportunity, right?
100%.
how can that be an education opportunity? And I want to just add to that this idea of when they come to you as with an idea.
Hmm.
One of the things I encourage is just like exploring or offering up the idea that works for you. Like I think, one of the things is they
100%.
may come thinking this is what I want, and then you explain this is what we have, and you
Yes.
can come to some kind of common understanding of what might work. Do you find that working for organizations?
Yeah, I really encourage organizations to put together a menu.
Mm-hmm.
So really, like, these are the things we need, right? The,
Mm-hmm.
this is an opportunity for 10 people. This is an opportunity for 15 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is what you would do, how many people, the requirements of those people, right? They have to be willing to do certain things. They have to be willing to lift things, able to lift things, right?
Mm-hmm.
That type of information. And then I know that's, I'm speeding ahead to one of your
Yeah.
questions, right? What
Yeah.
is the price tag attached to that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Well,
And
having
there's
said
no
that, like,
flexibility,
there's
right?
flexibility. Yeah. One of the things I also ideate a lot with our clients about is what are some lighter touch things? I've been doing more and more research into this. And while there still is a lot of group volunteering opportunities that are desired on the part of corporate. We're also seeing like more micro opportunities. And one of the mistakes I sometimes see charities make is making the thing too big, right? Like right from the start, they're assuming that the only thing is this big group activity. And when often there's companies that want more, what I'm calling like micro, I think the term I heard on a recent webinar was micro engagement or micro volunteerism.
Micro volunteering, totally a thing.
Yeah. Can you tell me, what do you think about that, I don't want to say trend, but that movement towards more micro volunteering? Are you seeing that as well? Is that, in your menu model?
Wider trend within volunteer engagement. And micro volunteering could be like share this organization's information on your social, raise awareness about this campaign, sign a letter to your elected official. That might be challenging with corporate, right? But depending, right? And then or it could be maybe it's a harm reduction organization, right? And it's like, go pick up a naloxone kit and carry it in your vehicle, in your bag, whatever, right? So those are little things, right? But it's the impact is the education and the awareness, and it's not necessarily how many people did we get out and how many hours did they do, because the number one misconception about volunteer engagement is hours equals impact. Right. And hours absolutely does not equal impact.
That is true. However, like to be the corporate voice here, many companies are measuring based on hours.
Yeah.
And so, it's going to be important at that point. And this is where we want to create partnership and values aligned where things are win-win. It is important to the company that the hours are counted.
Yeah.
For many companies.
Yeah.
That's part of the equation. And it's important for the organization that there's meaningful work happening.
Exactly.
And the company wants the meaningful work as well, but they also want to be able to quantify that on some level, maybe by hours and maybe also by impact metrics. But it's, I think, important to be aware of that right from the start, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be maybe one of the expectations, is that you can report back on hours. And I think, frankly, that's true for many volunteers. I have like a teenage child who's, got high school hours. They also want to report on the number of hours. So, I mean, it is a bit embedded in our culture that counting the number of hours is part of the measurement equation. It's not the only measure, though.
And I think that's something that I hope more folks working in the nonprofit sector, working in corporate partnerships, can speak up about when they're having those conversations about hours, like dollars for doers, that type of stuff. What is the equivalency, and having that conversation of what other metrics can we talk about? Can we talk about the number of clients served? Can we talk about the number of tickets closed? Can we talk about the number of, lines of code that were written? Right. Who knows, right?
Other options. Yeah, it's good to have this more open conversation about the options. I am going to turn our attention to the revenue generation. So as I've said, and that I feel this way strongly, that I feel that companies should pay for these opportunities, and that it is on some level a dual responsibility, because the company has to be prepared to pay, but the charity has to be in a situation where they create something or are willing to do the work that makes it worth paying for, and also tells the client, the company, how much it is. How do you see this sort of payment thing working out in your work?
Yeah. Another misconception about volunteer engagement: it's not free, right? Volunteers are, they're more than unpaid workers. They add so much value to an organization and just seeing them as free labor is very myopic. Right. So I think that's one of the things that can be set up front is organizing this, supporting your journey, being your partner in this process. Our organization needs to put in resources, right? So it's human resources, it's, you know, using software to give you that education, right? It's someone who can share the impact. It is someone to be there and support and supervise the volunteers and be there to answer questions competently.
Right.
Yeah. That's not free.
No. No, it's not. And the that one, like that hour equals like is enough to compensate for that cost is definitely is not enough. And so you do need to have a cost. I also think that you have to have a cost, and we know how valuable it is on the corporate side. There's so much data that shows that offering these sorts of opportunities to your employees helps with retention, loyalty, team building, like all these things. So for all of the charities out there listening, your experience that you're offering, whether it's a group experience or a one-on-one experience, is of value to companies. And therefore, you need to value it. You need to set the price for that experience proportional to how great of experience you have, how aligned the company is, right? Like all of these considerations. But like it's definitely not free.
And I mean, okay, getting a little crass here, but I'm not going to use any curse words, is a lot of organizations, they come in and one of their expectations is you are going to talk about us. You're going to put our logo somewhere. You're going to put us on social media. There's going to be a photo of our employees who are doing this great stuff. And you're going to tell the world how much of an impact that we made, right? If they went out and bought that marketing from LinkedIn, from Meta, from whoever, from Google, right? How much would that cost?
That's right.
How many, like, what is the value, not only of the time that it takes to engage volunteers, but what is the value of the connections you have as an organization? You are giving this company access to all your stakeholders.
Yeah. It's so true. And so, I mean, that's definitely what we do when we integrate employee engagement into the overall partnership program with the organizations we work with. It's like that whole package. It's like, yes, it's the activity, whether it's a micro activity or a bigger activity, combined with these other things, is part of a partnership package. Now, you can simplify it down to just be your employee engagement opportunity, but the more of those extras that you add in, from my perspective, the more that becomes a partnership where like employee engagement is one component of a bigger thing, where the company really wants to have an impact on your mission and in your organization. And one piece of that is with their employees volunteering. Instead of seeing it as a transaction, then that's where we're really moving it along that continuum, which I think is really the secret sauce. If you can do that as a charitable organization, make it more of a partnership where employee engagement or volunteer experiences are a piece.
Yes.
That's like 100%. The winning formula. It's the winning formula. Last question I have, let me think. Let's quickly, you talked a little bit about the measures and how you use those. What you specifically mentioned here around like setting yourself up for the future with some of these measurements. Tell us a little bit about what you recommend there.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about, how to start the relationship, but what happens when the employee volunteerism is complete, right? The initiative, the project, the event is over.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope you're gathering data from the company itself,
Mm-hmm.
but I also hope you're gathering data from those individual employees who took part, right? And it can be very simple NPS data, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you recommend volunteering with,
Yeah.
right? And it could be like a 3 to 5 question survey. But
Mm-hmm.
another piece of data you could get is their consent to
Yeah.
opt in to receiving your newsletters. Then they may start along that journey of becoming a monthly donor, maybe an annual donor, maybe they grow, right, and become a major gifts donor. Who knows, right? Maybe they go to a different company and they are the champion for your organization there. You don't know. People's lives are so rich, right? The other part is they volunteered. So maybe their journey, once they get onto your list and they've opted in, is, oh, that looks like another great volunteer opportunity, right?
Right? Yeah.
And now they are someone who is regularly volunteering or speaking to their friends, their family, their colleagues about how your organization offers excellent volunteer opportunities and how they should get involved, right? So you're really building a network of advocates and champions through corporate volunteer experiences.
I love that. It just speaks to something that I really think is part of the equation is the intentionality, right?
Yeah.
You have to think about the touch points all the way along and look for all the different levers you can pull at different points, whether it's at the beginning to get the company to invest, to educating the employees. Like there's matching fund opportunities often you can put in there somewhere, turning them into a volunteer on their own, advocate in the future, like all of these things, right? It takes a bit of a journey map, I think, on what you want to have happen. And that's where we go back to this thing that, I'm going to on my soapbox for a second, all organizations should have thought this through, right? We know that companies are going to call. It needs to be a part of your partnership framework. And that means thinking through this journey. It means thinking about what your offers are. Do you have some micro offers? Do you have some things that are easier to do? Do you have some group opportunities? Like, what does your menu look like? The menu of one organization will be very different from a menu of another organization, but everybody can come up with a menu that works for them. And the more you do that ahead of time, the more you can get these different things to work over time, right? It doesn't all happen at once, but like if you layer it in, I know you talked about one of the clients that you're working with and how you were layering it in phases, which I love. Like start somewhere and then add is such a great strategy for this. And I think makes it less intimidating than thinking I'm going to take it on all at once. We are out of time. I so appreciate all your tips and ideas today. If you have any questions, please put them in. I see a couple. We'll definitely go in and answer them after. But if anybody has any specific questions for you, Jessica, where can they connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, Jessica Pang Parks, and please visit my website, learnwithjpp.com. I believe I'll be sharing a freebie on FAQs you should share with folks within your organization before you deploy a volunteer survey, which might be very helpful if you're surveying employee volunteers.
Definitely. We will definitely put Jessica's information, including the freebie she just mentioned, in the show notes. So you will definitely be able to get that. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us today. Wishing you the very, very best with your successful volunteer programs. Make sure to value what you're doing, incorporate it into your corporate partnerships. And if you have any questions about any of this, I'm Heather Nelson. I'm representing Bridge Raise. And if you have questions, please do reach out. Thanks so much.